Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very special episode of the 2488 NASCAR podcast. My co host here is Alan Steele. Hey, Alan.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
So great to see you, man. This is so awesome. I'm just, the countdown caught me off guard here a little bit, so I'm just going to share this to my group, NASCAR Daily, make sure our viewers can tune in. And my very, very special guest, sorry, I'm so nervous, so nervous.
Don't be.
Okay, I shared it, got it out there. And very special guest, and I like to consider you my friend. Bill Lester is here.
Hey, Mike. Good to be with you.
It's a huge victory for me. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This is a little bit delayed because we had some things going on, and I really wanted to talk to you about your Atlanta run. So proud of you with that. And first off, before we get to that, I'm just going to introduce you to my co-host here, Alan Steele. Do you want me to give you a little intro, Alan, or do you want to? I don't know if you want to brag about yourself.
I was a pit crew. I was in the military for 8 years. Did a tour in Iraq, and then got out of the military to live my NASCAR dream. Moved to Mooresville, North Carolina, in pursuit of becoming a pit crew member, and the rest is history. I did it for 14 years, and then when they made the rule change to take the carriers out, a lot of us lost our jobs. Some people remained in. I could have stayed in the shop and worked, but the competitiveness of it, I couldn't be around. Bill, when you go to Daytona, it's a different atmosphere, and you're not around that. I couldn't live with myself being in the sport and not being at the racetrack. So I had to step away from it, and I miss it at times, but there's a lot. The grueling schedule I don't miss. I got my family that I'm here with. I get to see them every day. For 14 years, I didn't have a weekend. So I love what I do now. I do 2 different podcasts, this one and my own. And that's a little bit about my background.
And just some of his accolades are Michael Waltrip Racing with Clint Boyer, Kyle Busch Motorsports, I believe in the trucks, and Hendrick Motorsports as well. So this is my guy. Both of you guys, it's so great to have you here. To me, you guys are legends, and it's great to have you both on here at the same time. I got goosebumps.
It's all good. No, I appreciate the fact that both Alan and I, we lived our dream. We had a passion for the sport, and I'm sure just like him, neither of us took no for an answer. We worked hard, we sacrificed, we did what we had to do to see it through. And so it's good to hear a little bit about your background, Alan. It's good to meet you.
Absolutely. You too, Bill. I didn't get a chance to pit for you. Would have been awesome.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I
took your advice, and I didn't take it no for an answer and kept asking you to come on. No, I'm just kidding.
We're here.
But no, thank you both for investing in me in this podcast. So Bill, I was going to briefly just share this story. I found you on Facebook when I'm trying to reach out and meet people and talk about racing. And I found your account, man, and you had this picture up that looked like it was from MySpace. I mean, it was a little fuzzy, and I said, Bill, this is not Bill Lester. This is a guy pretending to be Bill Lester to get attention. So I messaged you and I said, you're not Bill Lester. There's no way. And you're like, yeah, man, it's me. What's up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember that, and you definitely did put me on the spot. You had a hard time believing that I was me, and so I guess maybe I had to meet some of your challenge questions or something like that. I can't remember, but no, I'm supportive of folks in the sport that are trying to do what they want to do, and I always believed in each one teach one, and to whom much is given, much is expected, and I always try to give back to the sport. Love the sport. Not just NASCAR, but racing in general. I have a road racing background as well. And never really thought I was going to wind up in NASCAR from the start, but, you know, came here because this is where the action really was in terms of making a name for yourself and racing with the established best of the best. But no, I mean, there are a lot of folks out there that want to be where like Alan was and where I was, and, you know, either give up or, you know, get frustrated or whatever the case is. We just kept to it. We stuck to it. And we just want to continue to encourage people to pursue their passion. And a lot of that has to do with, from my perspective, just talking with folks, giving them guidance, giving them suggestions, and, you know, encouraging them. So, you know, when you reached out to me and you were like, well, I'm doing this podcast, and, you know, I kind of think I asked you, okay, so what is your, you know, your breadth? What is your reach? And, you know, well, you're saying I'm kind of starting out, whatever. And I guess you kind of thought I would never, you know, participate as a result of that. But
Nope.
no, I mean, I don't have to be on the grandest stage or anything like that to talk about, you know, my love of the sport and what it is I did and what have you. Because, you know, if you just reach one and get them excited about what it is they want to do and encourage them, and they are able to live their dreams, you know, that's a reward in itself.
It's amazing. And, oh man, that's so awesome. You just stunned me there. I lost all of my train of thought. I'm just
Sorry.
I'm flustered. I'm flustered, Bill. Oh man, we had that to talk about the first time you came on. We had that Jordan had written that beautiful segment on diversity, and when I pitched that to you, we didn't even know you were going to be on Race Hub the following day. And then you go on Dale Jr. as well. You know, you saw that and you said this, you know, or what? Not to speak for you, but when you heard that was the title, your whole attitude toward it changed completely. Like you were so much more interested. At first, you had said you didn't know what you could contribute to a weekly podcast just talking about current events in NASCAR, and you just changed your tune with that interview, and it had 250 views, and to me that's successful. And you know, my mom got real emotional from it. I got emotional from it, hearing your words and your stories. So thank you very much for sharing that with me, Bill, sharing that with all of us, really. Speaking of diversity in NASCAR, I'm wondering if you've seen I Am Athlete on YouTube, the interview they did with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No, I didn't. You know, I'm aware of I Am Athlete, but I didn't get an opportunity to see it. What did you want to share with me?
Seeing ever since Bubba Wallace made these changes, I'm seeing and hearing more people from other sports, especially football. More people from football are coming into interest about our sport. They're asking questions, they're investing. And, you know, not to plug Dale Jr.'s broadcast, but what was beautiful about that was seeing these athletes who before considered NASCAR to not be an athletic sport and not take it seriously. You'll see they do a ride along at Charlotte. Dale Jr. takes them for a couple laps, and to see their reaction, you know, climbing in the car, the speed and everything, it's really beautiful thing for me, and it has nothing to do with race or anything like that. It's just beautiful to see people discovering this sport, like you said. Just new fans coming in that are seeing what we've been talking about for years.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can watch a race on television and it just doesn't do the sport justice. It's kind of like I use the equivalent of watching hockey. And, you know, I have a hard time watching hockey. And I'm like, what's the attraction and appeal to this sport, you know, to this game? And then I went to a hockey game and I understood it. It was like, man, you know, now I see what it's about. I see the excitement, the intensity and that sort of thing. And racing is the same way. You know, folks are like, well, that's just cars going around in a circle. You know, I mean, what radio station you guys listen to and stuff like that? You know, just not knowing what it's about. And then you bring them to a race. They don't even have to be in the car. I brought fans, friends of mine, I should say, not fans, friends of mine to the track. And I said, just come, just experience it with me. I've done a number of situations, or I've had a number of opportunities to bring friends to the track and give them a real fan experience, such as, giving them a tour of the garage area and letting them walk through haulers and talking to people in the sport. And they're like, wow, I never knew it was like this. They're here, they're hearing the engines warming up for the event or whatever the case is. And then when the practice starts, they're seeing cars in and out of the, garage area. And they're less like, it's wild. Look at all those adjustments they're making. Look at all those things they're changing. Look at all of what's going on. Look at all the coordination and everything that takes place. They just think that, they show up on Sunday and they race, like nothing takes place before that, actually in these COVID times, it's almost been like that. But before that, pre-pandemic, of course, there was a lot of practice, a lot of qualifying, whatever. And of course, we'll talk about my situation getting back behind the wheel here a couple months ago in the, pandemic scenario we were in without practice and qualifying. But I say all that to say that I bring these friends in and they become immediate fans once they experience it in person. And then they, once they get the opportunity to see them in and out of the garage area, then once the race starts, they have some great seats in the stands and they just can't believe, the sound, the speed, just the thrill of the whole event. And so now you're telling me about a whole nother level where, the athlete, like from the NFL or whatever, actually gets a behind the wheel experience being a passenger. Like, when I did it with Richard Petty driving experience, I would give, customers their thrill rides and stuff like that and scare the pants off them. And I would just find it completely hilarious because they don't realize that, if it's a real race weekend, we're going into these corners at 190, but like at the Richard Petty driving experience, we're like maybe $160, right? So it's almost like one hand on the wheel, but we're coming so close to the fence or the corner of the wall that they're jumping out of their seat because they have no control over the vehicle. So I can understand that, right? Plus they're closer because they're on the passenger side. I'm over on the driver's side. I have complete control and everything is, just almost like at a snail's pace. But for that person who's uninitiated and hasn't had that experience before, it's like you might as well be going 500 miles an hour and you might as well be like, a centimeter off the wall. There's plenty of safety involved in it. But just to see how these people will, like when you go into the corner and you come up to the fence and they jump back, they think I'm going to take them into the wall. It's just hilarious. It's great because it gives them an appreciation for what it's like. Not the full appreciation. We're not going to go 10-10 with the passenger, riding along shotgun, but it gives them an idea in terms of what the G-forces are when you go into the corners, through the corners. It gives them an experience in terms of how hot it is behind the wheel. They think it's like, okay, you're turning up the air conditioning and all that kind of stuff. No, when you got a car that's got 800 some odd horsepower in it, right in front of your feet by the firewall, all that heat just radiates into the cockpit. And, the only thing that we have as drivers to keep us cool is, a helmet blower, which really is only like 10 degrees cooler than ambient air. So if it's a 90-degree day, then it's like 80-degree cockpit air going into your helmet, so it's a little bit cooler, but it's not as if we're shivering behind the wheel. We're still sweating and everything. And it's quite an athletic endeavor. And these athletes from other sports are getting that appreciation because when we give them a ride in a car like that, they're like, man, you got to do this for hour after hour. There's no bathroom breaks. There's no timeouts. I'm like, yeah, we're real athletes. We have endurance, we have strength, but we have quickness as well. You have to know what that vehicle is going to do almost before it does it. We're typically more proactive if, we can be than reactive. If you're reactive at that speed, you're probably going to have a bad experience at the end of the day. But you're trying to anticipate all the things that can possibly happen. You're not only concentrating on the road, you're concentrating on, what your gauges are telling you. If you're about to blow your engine, if it's getting hot, or whatever. You're also listening to your spotter, what the spotter is telling you in terms of what's going on around the track. You're listening to your crew chief in terms of, what it is that you can tell him to make your car perform better. So, it's a multitude of things that are hitting you all at once. And you got to process all this information and give hopefully an effective outcome. So again, I say all that to say that, folks that have not experienced NASCAR personally, they owe it to themselves to do so because you get a completely different impression after that.
I got to back up on that. Sorry, Mike. Same thing when I promised guys from the military side when I got out if I made it. Well, there wasn't no if I was going to make it. That's the drive I had from being in the military, playing football. My high school football coach instilled so much into me to never quit, and great people taking me under their wing. So when I got hot passes, which Bill, you know what hot passes are. It's that cool experience. And guys that had never been to a race are like, that would always, it's just left-hand turns. I'm like, no, just wait. So I take them through the garage, and they're like, man, the smell, the fans, it's different atmosphere. And then when they finally are in the pits, like right behind, and I'm getting up to do stops and stuff there, I can see it in their eyes. They're like, oh my God, this is a different deal. And they're like, these cars are an inch apart for however long the race is. And they're like, this is insane. You don't see it from the TV's perspective. They give a good look on it, but being there in person and feeling it, the heat, and we don't even feel half of what Bill feels in the car or all the rest of the drivers. And the fans are waving stuff, trying to stay cool. And I'm like, just imagine what they feel inside the car, the pit crew members with all this stuff on. And then it's a whole different atmosphere for people that have never been to a race. You can watch it on TV all day, and they do it sort of justice, but that live deal, that raw, just the power of all them cars together at one time is a total different deal. And then I also took some of these guys go-kart racing at the GoPro Motorplex. You probably know where that's at, Bill.
Yeah. And
they couldn't even keep up with me, and I'm not even a race car driver. And afterwards we get out and they're like, man, my forearms are killing me. And I'm like, exactly. Imagine what them guys are doing at 200 miles per hour, 150, 160, 190, depending on the track, for 4 hours. You just did it for 4 laps, So everybody that I brought to the track has a new appreciation for every driver that's out there. They're like, man, these dudes are conditioned guys. I mean, you got to be, So I back you up 110% on that. I lived the sport too. I did a little bit of go-kart racing and stuff, but nothing on that level. But yeah, I got, even me as a pit crew member, have an appreciation for you guys because I couldn't do it,
And by the same token, I have an appreciation for you guys in the pit crew because, goofing around, let's put it like this. I'm goofing around during pit stop practice. I watch you guys do what you do. And, now I can introduce the goofing around part because I'll go, well, how hard is it to jack up one of these cars? And I'm like, okay, let me try it. And so I go, I put all of my weight, everything I have into that jack. I can't even get the car off the ground an inch. It's like, I'm not that weak, but it's technique, it's strength. It's just conditioning. It's practice. It's not easy. When these guys just go and just pump on it like once and the thing goes up, I'm like, it's phenomenal to me. And then watching like the tire changers and, hitting those 5 that fast. This is amazing precision and just the whole ballet that is the pit crew and what they do. It's phenomenal. It's almost like, wow, I almost have the easy job of driving. So It's almost like that, I feel. It's like, yeah, okay, so I got a responsibility, no question. It's a full team sport. But for everything to come together and to be successful, it's so hard because there's so many things that have to go right. So if you win, it's the greatest thing in the world, But it's so hard to do that because you have such little control over the whole process. I'm talking about for me as a driver, everything has to go right? I got to make all the right decisions at the right time. I don't have any control of what these other, 39 maniacs or, if it's trucks, 35 other maniacs are going to do. We're all trying to do the same thing. And so you only have control of what you have in your hands and with your feet. And so all these other circumstances that can happen, it's like, okay, luck of the draw, maybe you're going to be lucky. Maybe you're not. Maybe your tire's going to hold air. Maybe one's going to blow out. You don't know what's going to happen. Somebody wrecks in front of you. Maybe you're going to get through it. Maybe you're not. Then when you come on pit road, am I going to get those 4 tires, that fuel, those adjustments, everything I need in that amount of time that's going to allow me to maybe make up some spots, or am I going to lose some spots? Just all sorts of things that, the crew chief strategy in terms of when he brings you in, can bring you in the wrong time. And all of a sudden, caution flies right after you made your pit stop. You're like, oh, dang, if I only stayed out. It's amazing the millions of things that have to go right for you to ultimately be successful. And Alan, most people don't really realize that. And Mike, that's for you as well. Most people it's like, it can't be that hard. It's not that physically demanding. What's so difficult about running around in a circle and, staying off a concrete wall and all that kind of stuff? But when you go and you experience and you see everything that takes place to be successful, it's a phenomenal thing.
I'll tell you, I tell you, you just mentioned me in there, and I gotta change that because it was not so much that I watched it on TV and didn't respect what they were doing. It was almost like overconfidence of knowing how much I loved it and just feeling like I could do it. It's what I wanted to do and I could do it. I did the petty experience at Daytona and I got out of that car and I'm like I told the people that were there waiting their turn. I said I'm going to come back here and I'm going to win at this track one day. And I don't care what series it is, but this is what I'm going to do one day. And unfortunately I wasn't able to do it, but it wasn't like you said. Most people have a lack of respect for it. They make fun of it. They like to quote Jeff Dunham's little puppet that goes, "They're making a left turn." I get that one all the time. And I actually brought my buddy over who says that a lot. And I'm like, man, just come over and watch a race one day. And it's funny you mentioned the pit stops and the sensory overload. I can't bring everyone to the track, but he was watching it and he looked up from his phone and heard the lug nuts being fired off and the adjustments and the intensity of it. And he's like, wow, I didn't know this was a part of it. He's noticing they've got to do the pit stops in under 13 seconds. Just about. So
yeah, well, you're getting beat on pit road if you're having a 13-second pit stop.
Oh, sorry.
No.
I'm a little outdated.
4 years ago, I mean, we were 2017. There was guys busting off 10-second stops on a consistent basis, and
wow,
that I mean, Gibbs, Waltrips was doing it. A lot of the teams are doing it, but it was in the guns, and then I don't know if I should mention it, but a lot of sorry, Bill, but a lot of us were they weren't hitting the fifth lug nut, and that's why they come out with the lug nut rule because I hit 5 with 10 to go, you're hitting 3 lug nuts because that wheel's not going to come loose but you pick up 5 spots. The people that are watching it on TV don't understand that. It's all competitive stuff. And there's not, and I get the question all the time, do you mess up a pit stop to piss your driver off? No one does that. No. Everybody is there to win. And if you're not, you don't need to be there. Everybody that goes to that racetrack is there for one reason, to win. And
yeah, I'm absolutely astounded, quite frankly, that somebody would ask you that question. It's like, really? Oh, yeah. My goodness. No, I mean, it is, like I said, the ultimate team sport where, we're all pulling in the same direction. And, there's no bitterness, animosity, or there's going to be a problem within the team. And that cancer is quickly weeded out. No, we all have a very, very specific goal, and that's to do the best that we can, at all times.
I could see that from a fan's perspective of hearing on the radio the driver cursing out the crew through the whole race. I won't name names, but I could see that from a fan's perspective. But no, those pit stops are so crucial. You make the smallest mistake and you're lucky if you have your job. I don't know if that's how it is, but that's how it sounds when they get upset. They're like, that guy's going to be fired for, letting the wheel roll out, things like that. And also to speak about current events, I heard Alex Bowman at Dover last week fired off the fastest pit stop of the year of anyone to win that race. And I don't know what the exact time was, but I think that's just stellar.
Well, another thing is when the driver's complaining, everybody does, Bill, it's the heat of the moment. They come in third, they go out sixth. It's hard to gain them spots back. It is so hard. And not one pit crew member went into that stop saying, you know what, I'm a laxy daisy this one. We're professionals. Everybody there is on a professional level. And you just have a mistake. You go back to hit one extra lug nut, that's a spot. It is literally a spot. And trust me, no one's down on each other more than what we are when that happens. You see guys, if they stay on the pit stop long enough, hitting their head or, like, oh, nobody wants that. Everybody is there. They make a paycheck to feed their family and to be a part of that team. And everybody, that's why they call them professional athletes, because they are. And nobody gets down on themselves more when that happens. When I would miss a hang, I'd be like, oh my God. And that's one of my favorite patterns, and I'd miss it. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Why? You beat yourself up more than anybody could. But then you that's that stop. You go to the next one because you got probably 10 more. You can't beat yourself up on one stop, and you can't let the driver get in your head, because you wouldn't be at the level you are if you did. Everybody has their heated moments. We all do. The crew chiefs do. The drivers do. The owners do. Everybody has that moment, and you just got to wash it out and go on to the next one, because there's going to be more to follow. If you take it to the next one, it's just going to fall through.
Hey, Bill, let me rapid fire 2 questions for you here.
Sure.
I would like to know, where did you drive the Petty experience?
So when I did the Petty driving experience, it was to gain some appreciation and knowledge of a track. And I think where I did this was, it was either Kansas or Kentucky, I think, or was it Charlotte? It was one of those 3 tracks. I'm not sure, but I didn't do it very often. I did it once in a while just to gain some knowledge and appreciation for the tracks. There were some tracks where I just didn't feel that comfortable, or I hadn't been there before. I think it was maybe I'd been there before, but I was just trying to, gain more nuance, more experience, just more things I could and couldn't do, and just a feel, just so that it became second nature. So it was one of those 3 tracks that I did. It was either Kansas, Kentucky, or Charlotte.
Cool.
But this is a long time ago. This was, 2003, 2000, probably when I was with my Dodge days. So 2002, 2003 was a long time ago.
That's just something I didn't know about you. So that's cool. We got it. We heard it first here on my podcast. My second question was, originally I brought up this subject to follow up on your original reason for joining this. Was we were looking forward to Michael Jordan coming in the sport, and you came on real early on, I think before the season even started, or around the start of the season. So my question of bringing this up is, like, have you noticed any difference with new fans coming in, new interest in the sport? Have you noticed anything change since all of this change going on? Like I mentioned with Brandon Marshall and I Am Athlete, that's more public, but have you on your end noticed anything?
Well, you alluded to it. You kind of brought it to the fore that indeed there is a lot more interest being cast on NASCAR. And a lot of it is because of what took place last year, and the banning of the Confederate flag. That really raised a lot of eyebrows, including my own. I was really happy that NASCAR did what they did, because that really was a barrier to entry and to access for a lot of folks in the African American community. I mean, we just never felt comfortable. We'll never ever feel comfortable around Confederate flag because of the pain and the hurt that we feel when we see that symbol of oppression. Obviously, there's a faction of the community that doesn't see it that way, but as a Black man, I can tell you that the majority of my community does. So when that was done, then it, like I said, raised a lot of eyebrows and created a lot of interest, and I think that's a great thing. I see folks on social media who I never, didn't know who they were, just like all of a sudden indicating they're extreme fans of the sport, and they're talking about the sport all the time. And I'm like, who is this person? And then you find out this person from a sports background different than motorsports, that has been what I like to call a closet NASCAR fan, who now is poking their head out of the bunny hole and saying, I've always been one, but I just never really felt that comfortable. Now, in terms of what I see the sport is trying to do, I feel that I feel comfortable, in my own skin with this sport. So I think that's a great thing. And, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I commend Bubba for doing what he did. Now, he's taken a whole lot of backlash as a result of it from some of the traditional NASCAR fans. But you know what? Folks need to get with the times. It's not, 1923 anymore. It's 2021. And I'm hoping that people see us as being more similar than we are different, And so the sport, I think, took a big step forward. It was a long time in coming in terms of what they did with the banning of the flag. And I think there's a number of other things that they can continue to do to make the sport more inclusive. But no, I've seen, in answer to your question, a whole lot more interest, and that's only a positive thing from my perspective.
Like I said, my family listening to your stories about how you were perceived at the track and things like that. That's something I think everyone should hear. It was really emotional to hear that, and just makes your story all that more of a victory to celebrate your accomplishments, Bill. And we almost segued into your run at Atlanta, which I fully supported you and tried to get as much, um, notice about that going in my personal group, NASCAR Daily. We were so proud of you. We watched you run. I got so excited seeing you on the track. Um, what I wanted to do with you when we talked about you coming on was, because of where you finished, they did not give you a post race interview. So what I was going to do for you, Bill, was I was going to say, okay, here we are. You just climbed out of the truck. Bill, how was your run? I was going to interview you like the pit reporter.
No, I appreciate that. I would have responded that I'm proud of the fact that I got out of my comfort zone, which is one of the things one of my keys to success that I mentioned in my book, Winning in Reverse. It's important to get out of your comfort zone, and I did that. I hadn't been behind the wheel of a truck since 2007. So for me to, again, just believe in myself, which I've always have, and practice what I preach in terms of getting out of your comfort zone, I've always had the interest and the question as to whether or not I could come back and do it. After not having been behind the wheel of one of these vehicles for 14 years, you just really don't know. The sport evolves. I get older. I'm 60 years old. Everyone pretty much knows that. I've actually seen an article where they said I was 61. I was like, dang, I'm old enough. But in any event, you don't know what it's going to be like, right? I mean, it's a real popular slogan amongst drivers that say, the older I get, the faster I was. You remember how fast you were in your heyday, right? And so, what would it be like to come back? And so I was happy I did that. I didn't have the result that I wanted. It was due to, I feel, a lot of things. One is I went with a team that I just had no experience with, David Gilliland Racing. They did their best job to give me something I could drive. Unfortunately, the truck was far too loose for me from the word go. I mean, I was basically swatting bees and turning right through the corners. And whenever you're turning right through the corners on left-hand corners, that's not a good look. And, unfortunately, DGR didn't have any real success through any of their trucks. They fielded 4 trucks, and all of them were at least a lap down, and that's unusual, especially for Todd Gilliland, who's running really well. For him to finish like 15th or something like that.
Just picked up his first win this week, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, that was really an off weekend. I chose the wrong weekend to get with their squad, but I wanted to come back to Atlanta Motor Speedway because, Atlanta is my home. I have a lot of fond memories of that track because— a
lot of history, too.
Yeah, because of my Cup debut in 2006, right?
Sorry.
And so, I've always just had a propensity and affinity for that track. And I was glad that I did it. It was frustrating from a competitive standpoint to run that poorly. We made 3 pit stops and we tried to make swings to tighten me up. But, the communication that I had with my crew chief was non-existent in terms of the chemistry because we just started working together. And where he was thinking that I was maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, a 1 to 2 loose, no, I was like 8, 9, 10 loose, right? And so he was making these small adjustments, and I really needed big swings, and I never got the big swings. And as a matter of fact, the last pit stop, unfortunately, no adjustments were made to tighten me up. So it was just a miserable experience from my perspective that way, but that's the negative. The positive is that I was able to, not having driven in such a long time, to show up without either practice or qualifying. And when they drop the rag, the green flag, I'm going into turn 1 at, 160, 180, whatever it is, without the benefit of, having driven these trucks in the recent past and knowing what to experience and what to expect and bringing it home in one piece. I did not come back on the wrecker of flatbed. I drove it to the checker flag, which was my ultimate goal and desire, was to make sure that I could bring it home. And so I did that. I got a sense again as to what it was like to race in competition. Because I'm telling you, I've really been on the sofa, just watching others race and what have you. And it's like, okay, I've done a little bit of iRacing and what have you in between there, but that's not the same. That's a great approximation and a simile to, what to possibly experience, but you don't get the G-forces. You don't get the real experience of what it's like to race in competition with the air and the buffeting and all that kind of stuff. But in answer to your question, the short answer is I was glad I did it. I wish I could have finished better. That's really about it.
Awesome, Bill. If you were to do it again, the opportunity should arise. Would you do another 1.5 miles, or would you do a road course? Because I know you have some IMSA background. You're a road course specialist, right? Would you say?
Yeah, people would probably call me a road course ringer, because the foundation of my racing is in sports cars and road racing. My first professional race was in 1989 in an IMSA GTO Chevy Camaro with about 750 horsepower around, a 2.5 mile road course. And so, when Jordan Taylor and I won in 2011 at Virginia International Raceway, that was behind the wheel of a sports car. So, I'm a pretty versed road racer. So yeah, road racing would definitely be an easier thing for me to do than to jump onto another oval. And, I've looked at the schedule and I've kind of gone, might be interesting to show up at a road course before the season's up. But, I only set out to run that one race in Atlanta. And it was very difficult for me to put that program together, because I don't know if you realize it or not, but I had 3 separate partners that backed me in that return. I had the local Ford dealers, I had Tommy's Express Car Washes, and I had Camping World support, and coordinating all that in the very short time that I did was a headache and a half. It reminded me, to be honest with you, why I got out of the sport, because the sponsorship was lacking. And I was tired of chasing dollars, right? Because unfortunately, I was never born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't come from the sport. I didn't have the right last name and all that privilege that comes along with it. I had to work for it. My whole career, I had to work for it. And then for this return to the sport, I was working for it again. I was like, wait a minute. I got out of the sport because I got tired of, dialing for dollars. And here I am dialing for dollars, trying to make everybody happy and all that kind of stuff. And it worked out. But to go through that process again to come back, that's not high on my wish list.
Okay. Hopefully they'll seek you out. We'd love to see you return. I love rooting for you. And definitely if the 24-hour race, Rolex, you mentioned Jordan Taylor. I think my screen is frozen, but I'm wearing a IMSA shirt for you.
Cool.
It's a Corvette shirt.
All right.
So that's just awesome, man. And we were going to talk about this weekend at COTA, since we mentioned road coursing, but the rain was such a washout that I feel we didn't really get to see the track at its best.
No, we didn't. I definitely agree with that. I had concern about COTA, quite frankly, from the beginning, because I don't feel that COTA is really suited for stock cars. It really isn't. It's too tight. It's too twisty. Stock cars weren't built for that. And so when NASCAR decided to go to Elkhart Lake to Road America, I was like, that's the type of track that you should put stock cars on. I mean, I equate COTA almost to like Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama, or right outside Birmingham, Alabama, which is a motorcycle racetrack. And, okay, you can put some Indy cars on there and some sports cars on there, but COTA is almost as tight, is narrow in a lot of respects, and is demanding in terms of the tightness of the corners and the flow of the track as Barber is. And, if you're going to put stock cars at COTA, you might as well just go to Barber and run them there, and it would just be a slugfest. I think that the rain did a disservice to the race.
Totally.
The amount of water that I saw, I was like, this is insane. And the drivers all said that as well. I mean, it was just, they felt unsafe. The officials should have definitely called a red flag earlier than they did. I am so glad that nobody really got hurt, because there were some intense crashes there. And, if that's what you're into in terms of watching a race, then I'm sure you were happy,
No.
As far as
no,
it was not a good look. NASCAR was not at its best there.
No, I'll tell you, I'm a a well-known hater of Martin Truex Jr. I don't mind saying that publicly, but to see that crash, I was like, man, no one should crash like that. That was really unfortunate, and hopefully NASCAR learns its lesson from that. And when the drivers are asked saying, hey, I need tires, I have no grip, or I can't see anything, I need to pit, and their teams are telling them to stay out there and just hang on. Like, no, that's not good. We need to. If the drivers can't see, that's definitely a huge problem. But as far as COTA goes, maybe they're trying to mix it up because Truex and Chase Elliott have, without the exception of Bell winning the Daytona road course, Chase and Truex have dominated the road courses the last 3 years or so, and they're trying to mix it up. So I give them props for trying to throw a wrench into the works to make the drivers adjust to different circumstances. But like you said, they've got great tracks, Road America and Xfinity. Um, there's one that we race online with the Cup cars, and it might be Road America. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's a lot of fun to run, and I know for a fact the Xfinity series runs it, and so to see the Cup series run there, they're running a different one this year, and I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank here, but I'm just the short of it is I'm happy to see them trying new things, but running with zero visibility is not something we should continue.
Yeah, that was just dangerous, and I'm like I said, really glad and thankful that nothing really detrimental occurred. But these stock cars just aren't really built to run in the rain, and so the biggest issue I think was just visibility and the fogging of the inside of the windshield and stuff like that. I mean, they got windshields in sports cars where they got the elements, the elements that keep the fog off from the inside, and when they fog up and like they do, and the wiper blades aren't working right, I mean, it's just a complete mess. So they made it very clear that the conditions were not safe, and why it took so long to do what they did in terms of trying to rectify the situation by stopping the race. I'll never know. They didn't ask my opinion, but I gave it to you anyway.
I appreciate it. Alan, did you have an opinion on that?
I love road course racing. I used to not like it until, it started getting exciting at Sonoma, obviously Watkins Glen, but like Bill said, it's too narrow. It is built for Indy cars. They're a lot smaller. I didn't enjoy it at all. And, I know a lot of them guys, and that could have been really bad, but like I said, I'm nobody, and, I can't make them calls, but I can just put my opinion out. I think it was overly dangerous, and everybody's like, well, that's what they sign up for. No, it's not.
No,
it's not what they sign up to do. They're not signing to go run with rooster tails flying over the car where you can't even. They're trying to go 7 wide to get out of the other paths to make it into one corner, and it's just dangerous. It kind of made me mad watching it. I'm like, that someone needs to throw a red flag, and then it took the crash for it to happen, and it shouldn't be that. Like Bill said, they're not made to run in the rain. For years they never ran in the rain, and now they're trying to do it, and it's not good racing, period. I don't think so.
Under the right conditions, me as a fan, and it's cool to have me as the fan, Alan as the guy in the pits, and then the driver. We got 3 different perspectives here. That's pretty cool. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. But yeah, me as a fan, rain delays are terrible, and we're sitting here, and a whole Sunday afternoon could be wasted, and we don't know if they're going to get it going again. They don't always advertise very well to say, hey, it's 5:00. The jet dryers are gone. We got Bob Pockrass now, but back in the day, about 10 years ago, you're flying blind as far as what's going to happen with a rain delay. So I'm happy to see that they're trying, but as I stated, as long as it's safe and the weather conditions are, a light drizzle is different from a downpour. And I heard from Door Bumper Clear this morning, if the spotters can't tell the guy he's driving into somebody, that's where we need to say, hey, this is where we got to back off.
Yeah.
Bill, I don't want to keep you through lunch here, but I did want to ask you how your book is doing, because we are here to talk about your book. You mentioned it a little bit. So how's it been going with all of that from the book?
Oh, it's been going well. I'm pleased. The publisher's pleased with how sales are going and what have you. And the reviews that you'll see on Amazon have been stellar. I mean, I'm like a 4.8 out of 5 stars.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I looked that up.
yeah. What people have been saying about it has been really good. And so I'm glad that Jonathan Ingram and I wrote it. I think that it's something that anybody can read and appreciate. It's not as I've said before, it's not a racing story. It's a motivational story. It's a motivational memoir with a racing backdrop. I can only speak from my perspective, which is I was successful, that I consider myself successful because I was able to live my dream. And these were the 8 things that I identified that allowed me to realize my dream. But these 8 things that I identify can be applied across the board. It doesn't matter what it is you're trying to do. These are techniques and strategies and keys to allow anybody to be successful in their own definition in terms of whatever their walk of life is. So, sure, I go into a lot of detail about racing, and I want to give the reader an appreciation for racing because most people don't have that kind of appreciation. So, I define terms, racing terms, for people to understand so that they get a better understanding about what I'm trying to convey. But at the end of the day, it's just, again, things that allowed me to be successful, because believe me, it would have been very easy for me to quit, to give up, to be discouraged, to say, okay, this wasn't for me. Blacks aren't supposed to be racing, or whatever the case is. You don't have any money, so you shouldn't be in the sport, whatever the case is. And I overcame all of those things. And I did it at a very late stage. Most people wouldn't stick to it as long as I did. I mean, I knew I wanted to be a race car driver since my dad took me to my first race just shy of 8 years old. And I didn't get to really live my dream as a professional race car driver, getting paid, till I was 40. I mean, 40 years of age. Most people would be like, yeah, you're still trying to pursue this? It's like, yeah, it's my passion. I identified what my passion was, and I wasn't taking no for an answer. I knew I could do it. I had faith in myself, and I applied all these techniques to allow me to realize my dream. And I'm glad that I stuck to it because, it wasn't the long, career that I was hoping for. It didn't come as early as I would have liked it to have occurred, but I got there, and I got there on the tallest stage, the highest stage of motorsport in the United States, which is NASCAR. NASCAR is the top dog when it comes to motorsports. Sure, the biggest single day event is the Indy 500, but in terms of sheer numbers across the year, it's all about NASCAR. So I got there against the odds. I'm one of 4 black guys to do it since 1960.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to say for me, Bill, you personally, you've been a huge inspiration to me, and Alan as well. Like I said earlier, if I'm talking about it too much, I apologize. But just you guys, taking a chance on me, and just if you see potential, whatever you see, you're here. And Bill, I'm gonna do the audiobook version. I see it's on there now. I was waiting for that. I will do that, and I will continue to promote it for you. So my question to you is, what's next for Bill? I'm probably one of your biggest fans now, and what should we look for next?
Well, the book I wrote it because I wanted it to be kind of a calling card for my being able to do speaking events. I enjoy talking with people and, sharing my passion and, what allowed me to realize my dream and, give motivational speaking. And so that's what I'm doing. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to widen the door for more people of color to get through into motorsports.
Oh.
So I'm working with a group of other guys that we aren't ready to announce, our program, our organization yet, but we're working towards giving a broader net to being able to take advantage of motorsports, because it's really a sport where, people ask me, why aren't there more blacks in racing? And I say it's two things. One is exposure, two is opportunity. And what I mean by that is you have to be exposed to it at a very young age. You can't start out at 40 effectively like I did and try to be a race car driver. You have to start out very young, because that's what the sport demands now. So you have to be exposed to it. And in the black community, motorsports isn't really something that we gravitate to, because we don't see a lot of us that look like us in the sport, right? We see a lot of us that are doing stick and ball sports. We're in the music and entertainment industry, and that's what's glorified. That's what's supposedly cool, successful, whatever the case is. And that's what most kids do, right? They see what their parents do and what their friends do, and it's typically not motorsports, right? So exposure, you got to be exposed to it at a young age, and then you have to have the opportunity to take advantage of it. If you find out that this is what you want to do, you got to have the opportunity, the money, the resources, the level playing field to be able to participate in the sport. And those two things have been very, very fleeting for us. And I'm working, like I said, with this group to try to change that narrative. So that's what's going on right now.
Awesome. So stay tuned. Sorry, Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, and on the pit crew side, I'm sure Bill knows Phil Horton.
Yep.
He's helped a lot of African Americans come in to be pit crew members. The Drive for Diversity program that he runs, and there's been extremely successful guys coming out of that program that are on top tier teams, and they're badasses, and they do a good job. And Phil's been on the map for a long time doing it, and he's a great guy. I know him personally, and I actually want him to come on one of my podcasts. I'm going to reach out to him. So he's a great guy, and hell, I did some pit stops for him over at Revolution Racing in their little complex back in 2009, 2010, and just a great guy. He's helped a lot of guys get in the sport. So.
Yeah, no question. I've known Phil for quite a while, and I commend him on the efforts that he's put forth, what Rev Racing is doing there. And there's no question, like you said, that the landscape, especially from a pit crew standpoint, has changed considerably. I mean, Absolutely. I'll tell you, when I was racing in the truck series, primarily from 2002 through 2007, I could look left down the, pit wall, look right, or entering the pits or exiting the pits. I didn't see hardly anybody that looked like me with a gun in their hand or a jack or whatever the case is. And, now it's like I go to the track and I'm like, wow, there has been significant change. Now, of course, there are more opportunities, in the pit crew than there are drivers. But, I'm focusing with these other guys on the driving aspect of it, which, of course, is really hard because of the money that's required, because racing teams now expect drivers to show up with their checkbook first and their helmet second. I mean, it's a crazy scenario. I mean, it shouldn't even be like that. It should be like it was in the day where the team owners, they already had their sponsors in place and all that kind of stuff, and they were finding the drivers that they wanted. And now it's almost the opposite. It's almost like, okay, the team owners are like, okay, well, I got the infrastructure here. I got the haulers, I got the shop, I got the crew guys, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what are you bringing? And I was like, wow. So in any event, yeah, so it's really hard from a driver's perspective to get behind the wheel, but it can be done. And if the pool is greater, then, the number that can come through will be greater. I've kept on hearing a long time ago from owners. It's like, well, there are no candidates out there that are of color for me to even consider. And it's like, to some degree, you have a point. There aren't a whole lot of color that are out there that you can look for. But, again, we endeavor to try to change that to some extent.
Yeah. Mike Metcalf, Bill?
Mike Metcalf?
Yeah, been a pit crew member. He was at Red Bull Racing.
I don't think I know Mike.
He's at I want to say Ganassi Racing, black guy. He taught me how to carry tires. He's like, you're gonna hang 50 of them until you get it. And I couldn't even pick the tire up. I mean, I could pick it up, but it wasn't like he was doing it. This dude was slinging them big old. He played at App State. I want to believe. I hope that's right. I'm 100% sure. But yeah, he showed me how, and he wore me out, boy. But I finally got it down. So.
Well, that's cool. You had somebody to help you along, and that's really important. To have a mentor, somebody who's going to take you underneath their wing. For me, I was lucky enough to have Willie T. Ribbs take an interest in me from very young age. He saw me when I went through my first SCCA, which is Sports Car Club of America Road Racing driver school at Sears Point, or they call it Sonoma now. It's Sears Point. It'll always be Sears
back
Point.
in the day.
Right. And he saw me and he goes, you have the talent, you can make it, you have that potential, stay in touch with me. And sure enough, I was like learning at the foot of the master, and if it wasn't for Willie T, I don't know if I would have made it, so yeah, it's important to have those that, if you're aspiring to be there, that you can look towards and that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can, take their tutelage from and that sort of thing. So yeah, I wholeheartedly understand what you're saying. That's important. And that's why again, this group that I'm working with, we're trying to get out there so that we can be that resource.
Yeah, he's a great guy in the sport. I've looked up to him from day one, and he's still. I think he gasses now, but he's a beast. Him and Sean Peter actually, I think they started a pit crew program for diversity guys. So kind of cool deal.
Very cool. Good to know that.
Yeah.
And as soon as you are ready to make that announcement, if when I see it, I'll put it in the group, or you're welcome to make your own post.
Very good. Thanks.
I'm excited to hear more about that, and I hope you come down to Fort Lauderdale so we get together. I'll definitely come if you have one here down in Fort Lauderdale or West Palm area, Florida. Looking forward to that. I did ask some of our group members if they had questions for you. You have a little bit of time to answer some of those questions before you run out of here?
Let's get with it. Let's go.
Yeah, buddy. That's my man. Alan, you didn't have time. I didn't. I wanted to ask you. You've been asking. You guys have been talking, but I wanted to see if Alan, you specifically had a question for Bill.
Put me on the spot.
No, I didn't before, but I'll come up with one.
Everything that we talked about is pretty much, I knew Bill, I was a super fan growing up, and I knew I was never going to be a driver, so the next best thing was to be a pit crew member. So every day, every weekend I was watching racing. So I've watched your whole career, Bill. And then I got in the sport in 2008 when I got out of 2007 into 2007. And so I've known your career. I've followed every driver. I don't just have one driver. I followed them all. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You don't know who you're going to end up pitting for. So you want to take notes on every driver, and that's what I did. So I think we covered everything that we wanted to talk about.
That's a really cool perspective to hear you say that, Alan. That's really cool.
Well, coming into it, I just wanted to get on a team. It didn't matter who it was. But I wanted to know who I would be pitting for, so I knew every driver. I could take the name of the car, what manufacturer. I remember when you raced for Bill Davis, Yeah. So, and I tried to get on that team with Johnny Benson, but I didn't get picked. So,
I enjoyed the broadcast as much as the racing. The commentators, Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Daryl Waltrip, who is, you've mentioned, Alan is your hero, your personal hero, DW. I enjoyed hearing the stories about the other drivers. That's actually how I discovered Bill. Was their broadcast in the pre-race? They was all talking about Bill Lester making history in that 23 car, and I never forgot that. I held on to that. So as big of a fanboy as I am, and Bill, you were talking about encouraging people's dreams and stuff. It was my dream to join that Fox broadcast crew one day in some form of way. And I don't know if you guys have been noticing, but I do my own commentary when I'm able to of the races. That's something that's always been a passion of mine. And so I look at the sport as an outside spectator. I look at every story. I look at drivers that I don't like, that offend me, or I'm not going to root for them. I'm going to be pretty sour if they win. But I look at it as a spectator as well. So awesome to hear that from you, Alan. The fan questions coming in, and I decided I'm going to start with Jordan Balasico, because if it wasn't for him, Bill, you wouldn't even be here right now. So
yeah.
And to talk about 2003 and your history and everything, his question is, how did winning the pole in 2003 feel, making history?
Wow, that was such a big moment for me, but I didn't really realize it until everybody made such a big deal about it. I mean, for me, I just wanted to be the fastest. Making history was nothing that I was really, concentrating or focused on. I mean, it just came with the fact that I was the pole sitter, right? And from my perspective, with the Bobby Hamilton racing team at the time, basically that 8 truck that's here over my shoulder. Where is it? Yeah, there you go. We did that at Charlotte in 2003, and I mean, that was huge. It basically answered a lot of questions for me in terms of, was I fast? Could I do this? Because I didn't grow up racing stock cars. I never have driven on dirt. I didn't have any oval track experience. And then I come to NASCAR, and next thing you know, I'm in one of the top 3 national touring series in the truck series, right? And I'm going up against, ex-Cup drivers and what have you for that pole, and, very experienced drivers, et cetera, and great teams. And, for me to get that pole, that was huge. But again, it never really sunk in until the media made such a big deal out of it. And that's kind of been the way it is for a lot of things that I've done, like making my Cup debut at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We talked about that in 2006. It was such a big deal from a media standpoint. For me, it's just like confirmation of, my making the sacrifice to be a race car driver and then trying to make it at the top level. They're like, well, you realize the historical perspective and significance of all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess now I do. But, for me, it's just, I was elated for myself and for the team. These guys work really hard to put their best foot forward, to provide the best equipment that they can, and to reward them with a pole. That was huge.
Awesome. Our second question comes from Owen Reed in Daytona Beach. He asks, how was the surface Atlanta to run now compared to before? And a follow-up question would be, should it be paved, or is it is it too far gone, or is it a great challenge?
Well, I'll answer the last part first. It's a great challenge, and I don't believe it should be paved. It will become paved eventually, because as it continues to crack and as they continue to put filler in it and all that kind of stuff and Band-Aid it as much as they can, they're going to, at some point, lose the war, right? They're winning the battle, but at some point they're going to lose the war, and it will have to be repaved. But I'll tell you, it's a huge challenge, because it's like, they talk about how you shouldn't even push, drive the, the vehicle through the paddock. You should push it because the tires are already starting to lose rubber. Well, Atlanta's almost like that. It is so abrasive, that you feel good with a set of stickers on for about 3 or 4 or 5 laps. And after that, it's like, where did all that grip go? So right. It was like that before. It's still like that. It's a true driver's track, because you can drive low, you can drive up against the fence, you can drive the middle, and that's what we like as drivers, to be able to search and hunt around. But, at some point it's going to have to be repaved. But yeah, it was just as, is rough and is, slick as I remember it being, a decade and a half ago.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And you were saying your truck was too loose to really notice how the tire fall off was, right?
No, I mean, the tire fall off, even though I was loose, it got looser and looser and looser, because, the grip was going away on the tires, right? When you got those stickers, the truck felt pretty good, but it quickly went to loose. I mean, I'm talking about quickly, and it just never got better. I mean, it's just, I was afraid to turn the wheel into the corner. I was afraid to get back to the gas, because, the last thing you're trying to do is upset the rear end. Just the rear end was constantly trying to overtake the front. And as I stated initially, the last thing I wanted to do was fence it. I had to bring it home.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Caden Underwood, and he asks, and I love this question because I want to know the answer too. Okay. What are your thoughts on the SRX series coming up, and would you be interested in running it?
Well, I mean, I think the SRX series is going to generate a lot of interest, quite frankly. What will these drivers that, haven't really been behind the wheel for a while, how will they do? How competitive will they be? And then you got some guys that are current, like Ernie Francis Jr. He's a seven-time Trans Am, SCCA Trans Am champion. And those cars are no joke. Those Trans Am cars are like 900 horsepower, but they're road racers, and so, but, Ernie is very good. And then you got guys that haven't been out of the saddle all that long, if at all, like Eliel Castro Neves, right? He's still running around the Indy 500, and he's going to be there. And then you got, guys that are NASCAR racers, open wheel racers, sports car racers, and they're in identically prepared, I guess, vehicles, right? In cars that I think look like miniature Ferrari F40s with the wing on the back and the way the nose is. But, they're going to be in little bull rings and short tracks and on dirt. And so they're going to be paired with, I think random crew chiefs. It's a really interesting concept. So am I going to be interested in watching it? Absolutely. Do I have any real interest in being in it? No, not really. That's primarily because I don't have any dirt experience. I've never been on dirt. I've mentioned that before. And I'm not a guy who's big on bull rings. I like, and people always ask, what kind of tracks do you like the most? The big tracks, the fast tracks, the drafting tracks. I love Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta, fast Michigan. The faster, the better for me. I love being 195 miles an hour. I love what the draft does and picking up an extra 10 miles an hour when you're in the draft, as opposed to not being in the draft. Running around at, 90 miles an hour, with your shoulders out, leaning on each other and all that kind of stuff. That's fun. That's entertaining. But is that something I really want to do? No, I think I'll be good watching.
Awesome. And here when we first talked, like I said, you said I don't think I'd have anything to contribute.
Oh, you mean to a podcast of yours or something?
Yeah. You know what's going on, man. You got your thumb on the beat. You know what's happening.
It's primarily, Mike, because I'm a racing fan, and it's just not a NASCAR fan. I can tell you everything that's going on in Formula One. I can tell you everything that's going on in sports car road racing. I can tell you what's going on in drag racing. I can tell you what's going on in rally racing. I mean, my wife is like, you gonna stop watching TV? It's just like, when you're a fan and you have a passion for the sport, even though you're not actively doing it, you're still following it. But people always ask me, are you going to go to that race? No, I won't do that. That's what I don't like to do. I don't like going to races because that's almost like twisting the knife. I can watch it from a distance and enjoy it in the comfort of my own home, but being out there, like a regular fan, that's not my flow.
Alan, what do you say to that?
Well, for a while I was I wouldn't go to a race, but I'm actually going to Charlotte's race this weekend.
Oh, cool.
The longest one I picked, but I'm going with he was my boss in the military. I love this guy to death, and he asked me to go, so I'm going to go.
Wonderful.
And it's, I miss it to a degree, but it is like twisting a knife. When I see them pit stops, there's a sense that comes over me like, I want to be down there so bad, but my time's come. I've had my fun in the sun with it, and I know my career's over. I've got to do something that many people would pay astronomical amount of money to do, and I got to live it. So, that it does hurt, but I know it's over, and I got to deal with it. And it's getting better at times, and I can't wait to actually go to the race. We went to Bristol last year, and it was real bad for me. I'm not gonna lie, because Bristol is Bristol. Pitting there's close. It's
and you know what, Alan? You never know when it's over. I thought my NASCAR career was over, and next thing you know, 14 years later, I showed up again. So you never say never. There's always that possibility.
40 years old. I don't know, man.
Yeah, wait till you're 60.
Oh, yeah. It's coming.
So, Bill, I would like to hear, and hopefully this doesn't spoil your book, but I would like to hear, what was your personal favorite racing memory, or like your greatest success?
Oh, that's easy. Making the race, my Cup debut race.
Okay.
There's no question, hands down. I mean, a close second would be winning that race, a professional race in Grand Am, which is now IMSA, sports cars with Jordan Taylor at Virginia International in 2011. that was a huge win, you know, and especially in the backyard of Wendell Scott. You know, VIR is right near Danville, which is where Wendell Scott raced. He lived and raced. But no question, all the hype, all the expectation, you know, just the anxiety I personally had, even though I had a lot of confidence in myself, but just not knowing, you know, this was at the time when there were go or go homers. I mean, Alan remembers that. Now you show up and you race, right? You know, there might be one or two races where a few cars go home, but when I raced that race there, that was like 12 or 13 cars going home. And I was in the Bill Davis Racing Cup car that had lost its Dodge factory sponsorship. So they were doing the best they could to provide me a good, you know, race car without the benefits of the latest aero, the latest engine developments, you know, suspension and all that kind of stuff. And it's like we were in the deep end. It's like sink or swim. You know, I had no owner's points to rely upon to make it. So I would make the race, and all the hype about, you know, this is Bill Lester's opportunity to make history, blah, blah, blah. So I tell you, it wasn't even the race itself. It was qualifying for the race. That was my biggest accomplishment, because those are 2 laps that went by, you know, so fast. I barely remember what took place, but I knocked it out of the park. I qualified 19th out of the 52 cars that were there in my first debut race. I mean, Dave Blaney, who was my my teammate, was qualified back in like 32nd, you know, and he had experience. He was running the same equipment, you know. And here I am up in 19th. I qualified, you know, like Carl Edwards and, you know, I think Tony Stewart that time. I mean, a whole bunch of just guys that, you know, I had no business out qualifying. So that definitely was my biggest accomplishment. Folks knew that I could go fast, and I proved it.
Well, they also had champions provisionals back then too. So that's even more spots you got to become, because they get them spots, you know.
And you had guys like Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott was still prominently running in 06, I believe. You know, he was using up those championship provisionals. So that's a good point, Alan. And I didn't know that about the equipment you were running in. They didn't, you know, we didn't hear that side of the story. So that's to me, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, no, we were an independent entered car for the most part from a manufacturer standpoint. We couldn't say Dodge, you know, I don't know if it was a Charger or the Intrepid, but I think it was the Charger.
It was the Charger.
Yeah, we just called it the number 23, you know, and I think we might have said maybe number 23 Dodge, but I don't think we did. We kind of had to steer clear, because Bill Davis, his team, his organization was in hot water with Dodge, because of the fact that they picked up the Toyota program in the truck series. That really rubbed Dodge the wrong way, and they pulled their factory support.
That's crazy. Okay, so now this one is from me as a fanboy. I love drivers. Alan knows this. I geek out over. I've tried to hold it together as best I can, but I would hate myself if I didn't ask you. And I asked Ronnie Russell. I asked Ronnie this question as well. And I think I asked Alan, who was your friend / favorite driver to hang out with at the track or just interact with?
So, and now I mentioned this in my book, in my memoir, that I really never had any real quote unquote friends as drivers in NASCAR. And it's because I was an outsider. What do I mean by that? I didn't grow up in the sport, right? I was living in Atlanta, which I still do. I wasn't living in North Carolina. You know, I didn't grow up with these guys on the short tracks and the bull rings and go through the ranks through Legends and through K&N and all these different series. I was, you know, it was like Days of Thunder where Tom Cruise comes in on a motorcycle with open wheel experience and knows who this dude is. That's how they looked at me, right? So I really never had these friendships. I had acquaintances. And so, and I make that distinction because it's very clear. It was very uncomfortable for me to be on the behind the stage during driver introductions, you know, for a race, right? Because all the drivers would be huddled together and all that kind of stuff, and they'd be talking about all the things they'd be doing after the race was over, back when they were back in, you know, Mooresville or Charlotte or whatever the case is. And I'm not doing that. I'm going back to Atlanta, right? And you know, there just wasn't any real common bond, any real commonality that I had with these guys, right? I looked at these guys, quite frankly, and they probably looked at me as competition. And so it's a really unusual, unorthodox, unnatural scenario for me to be interacting with these guys because we just had nothing in common So I would say, in answer to your question, those that I got along, obviously the closest with, would be my teammates. So when I was with Dodge, it would be with, like Robert Presley, Chad Chafin, Brian Rose was a teammate of mine there, Shelby Howard. Then when I went to Toyota, it was, Johnny Benson, Mike Skinner. When I raced with Billy Ballou in Chevy, it was, well, obviously it was Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch came and ran a few times, and he was an acquaintance. He wasn't my friend per se, but we speak to each other now. But I drew a blank. The female driver who was my teammate then,
Haley. No,
it was Kelly Sutton.
Oh, back then.
Kelly Sutton. Yeah, Kelly Sutton. I drew a blank there for a second, showing my senioritis. But in any event, these were effectively, my friends, because we were all teammates. And that's how we looked at it when we went racing. I mean, your friends are your team, So I didn't really have any other friends beyond who my teammates were for the team that I was racing for at the time.
Okay. So did you have a fanboy moment where you like rubbed elbows with someone that you were just like, I know that now I just found out that Dale Jr. and you're on a first name basis with Dale Jr. But Alan tells me his story about meeting Darrell Waltrip. Mm-hmm. Did you have a fanboy moment where you were like, man, that just happened?
I can't say that I really did. I respected the drivers. Trust me, I respected them, and I enjoyed meeting drivers that I did. I've been very fortunate to have done that. But fanboy, I grew up again watching road racing and open wheel racing. I thought my career would take me to either, again, the top level of sports car racing, like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Le Mans, that sort of thing, or the Indy 500 and open wheel racing. I'd never watched NASCAR because when I was young, and I saw the Daytona 500 or the Southern 500 or whatever, I saw all these Confederate flags, and it was just such a big turnoff to me. And then when I heard, the interviews of the drivers, after they were wrecked or whatever, or after the race, and, I could barely understand what they were saying because the Southern drawls were so strong. I am growing up in Northern California, right? And so, when I first came to NASCAR, they were calling me Yankee. I'm like, Yankee? I'm like, really? So, it was a huge cultural, awakening for me, because it's like, wow, such a different way of thinking and a different experience. So when I met these drivers, yes, I truly respected what their accomplishments were and what they've been able to do in the sport, but these were not my idols. These were the drivers I idolized. My idol in racing was the late Ayrton Senna, Formula One driver from Brazil. He was like magic to me. He was phenomenal. And, tragically, we lost him at Imola. In a Formula One wreck. But he was the guy who, I always patterned, my career after. I want to be like Ayrton Senna. There you have it. Sorry, I know that's not the answer you wanted, but, I always speak the truth.
Well, see, for me, I got a picture of me as a young boy meeting Darrell. That was my hero. And then on pit road, when I was with RCR, he come down and somebody was running the Mountain Dew car. I can't remember. And he was standing by, and I'm like, I got to come by and get a picture from you. You're still my hero to today. And we took a picture. And to this day, I mean, it's just, that's what got me into the sport. I'd seen the 17 Tide car and I fell in love with it. And I grew up at Talladega. So there it is, it was to this day. I want to get him on my podcast, but I don't know how to get a hold of him. I used to work for Michael, his brother, but you lose connections, as the time goes on, but somehow I'm going to get him on here. That's one of my dreams. So,
and that makes a lot of sense because you grew up, idolizing the sport and the drivers and whatnot in the sport, and I didn't. So for me, I didn't have any affinity with anybody, running around in NASCAR. So for me, they were just competition. They're competitors.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people ask me, did you go around getting autographs? When you work in the sport, it's a different story.
No, I was looking more for like Jeff Gordon ever come up to you and say, hey, if you ever had a moment like that. It's Jeff Gordon. I mean, I know you're not a fan, but I mean, you gotta. I was just wondering if there was a moment like that. People that ran into Dale Earnhardt. I like to hear those types of stories. And Ronnie Russell, he knew Richard Petty, and I was trying to fish something out of him.
Yeah, no, I know Ronnie Russell myself back when he was working with Team Renzi, because Ed Renzi is the one who gave me my start in NASCAR.
Yep.
But I do have a story for you then, if that's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Mark Martin made a huge impact on me, and it's not because of our racing against each other, but strangely, I mean, here's the deal. I finished the race at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Cup car in 2006. And the finish was woeful, right? Because even though I qualified out of my element, outside of my head, when it became time to race for 500 miles, the car just wasn't there, right? I mean, both Dave Blaney and I struggled. We were running around in the back. But it was such a big story that I qualified for this race and I ran it, that the media wanted me to come into the media room, the media center after the race. You know, my PR girl said, "Hey, the media center wants you." And I'm like, what for? And they said, no, they want you to come to the media center, because, you know, the media center is typically devoted to the top 3 finishers of the race, right?
Right.
Mark Martin was clearly one of the top 3 finishers, because I'll always remember that when they were talking to the media about their, you know, respective races and how it went and all that kind of stuff, I was in the back of the room. And then whoever was emceeing, you know, the media conference said, "Well, Bill Lester has now joined us." And again, I didn't understand why I was there. And Mark Martin basically stopped what he was saying and said, "I'm done talking about this. Yes, let's hear from Bill Lester. I want to hear about what Bill Lester has to say." And I'm like, this comes from Mark Martin. I mean, he's a freaking legend. You know, he's a god, you know, and he knew my name. You know, I was like, wow, you know, so that would probably be my fanboy moment, if that's what you want to consider a fanboy moment. But, you know, it's not as if I got his autograph or anything like that, but just the fact that he acknowledged me, he stopped the media center conference so that I could be brought up front to share, you know, what little tidbits of information I could spit out.
Wow.
And I'm up there with him. And I think Dale Jr. was there, but it was Mark Martin who just, you know, pretty much stood up and said, "Yeah, let's bring Bill up here. I want to hear what he's got to say." I was like,
That's
dang,
amazing.
I made it. Yeah.
I don't know if my screen is still frozen, but
It is.
I have the biggest smile on my face, and I just took I had to sit back. Wow, that's what I'm talking about. Your face lit up too. I saw your face light up. That's what I'm looking for. That's that magical moment, man, because it's one thing to idolize it and watch it on TV and, you know, want to be there, but when you're actually like in it, and then something like that happens to you, it changes your life. It does.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. I mean, it was so he so did not have to do that, you know?
Yeah.
He just threw, it's like the spotlight's on them. He just threw the spotlight right on me. I was like,
yeah,
what did I do to deserve that?
What an honor.
He thought it was monumentous as well that, you know, that I'd done it and whatever, you know, just coming out of nowhere, not having really any stock car experience and making a Cup debut. So it made an impression that will be forever lasting.
I feel confident speaking for all NASCAR fans when I say that Mark Martin is the greatest. I don't know anyone that don't like Mark Martin. So that was that made my year right there, Bill.
Good deal.
So my final question, last one. You mentioned in the previous interview we did with you that you had spoken to Bubba a few times. Given his progression, I know you're not. You said you don't follow NASCAR as much, but you notice that team is struggling a lot, which we knew would happen. But for Bubba personally, what advice would you or have you given Bubba at this point?
Well, you know, I'm glad you said that we knew that they would struggle, because there's so much pressure that was placed upon him and that team coming out of the box. And I'm like, that's just not realistic, because these teams are well-oiled machines. One of the things I talked about before was chemistry, you know, everybody knowing each other, everybody having an expectation because you have that experience, you know. They didn't. They just all came together here with, you know, new shop, new equipment, you know, everything, and no chemistry, right? And so when Bubba made the statement he did initially, saying that he expected to win 2 races this year, my eyebrows went like up over my hairline, because I was like, wow, really? I mean, it's like, Bubba.
Bold statement.
I'm like, they're not going to just roll over and let you win. I mean, you're going to have some good stuff, but it's got to be everything coming together. Like I said before, everything has to come together to win. And for you to proclaim that you expected to win 2 races this year, I would have never done that, you know. So I applaud his boldness, but, you know, in terms of the reality of the situation, he bit off an awful lot. And I think people are holding his feet over the fire for it. You know, so like, okay, well, you know, you expected to win. You got all these sponsors, blah, blah, blah. You got Michael Jordan, blah, 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 Denny Hamlin, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. You know, you're finishing, you know, where you're finishing. Why aren't you finishing like you're supposed to be finishing, whatever? That's a lot of pressure. And we already know that from the past that Bubba's got, you know, an issue with depression. So, I mean, he really piled it on himself. And you know, and I've talked with him a couple of times, and we text more often than we talk, but I've been very encouraging of him and just trying to encourage him to keep his head up. You know, things will come together. You know, just this last race at COTA, you know, I texted something on the order of, you know, yeah, well, I know it wasn't the finish you were looking for, man. Just keep your head up. Things will turn. The tide will change. You know, it's bound to. You guys are working too hard. You know, you have too many parts and pieces there that are in, you know, approximate formation, but they're not coming together yet. They're not coming together. But you know, you've run well, you've led laps, you've done some great things out there. You know, just keep fighting. You know, but it's hard, man. People don't realize how competitive, how hard it is in the Cup garage. It's so different, I can tell you, than it is in the truck garage. It's like day and night. The truck garage is like, you know, hey, folks are smiling at you with each other and kind of jawing and, you know, whatever. Man, the Cup is all tense. Cup garage is tense. Alan will tell you, it's like, man, it's dog eat dog out there. Everybody's watching what everybody else is doing, and, you know, people are trying to get each other sponsors, and oh man, it's crazy over there in the Cup garage. It is not comfortable. It is tense. And
dog eat dog.
Yeah, and so, you know, the need to win is so high. I think that they're going to, you know, obviously crack that top 10, level this year. They were close. They got in 11th place. They'll definitely, you know, crack that. I believe they'll crack a top 5, but to win, that's going to be extremely hard. Everything has to line up. Everything has to be just perfect for that to happen. And, you know, they just don't have any, like I said, longevity, chemistry, you know, all those things that make a team, you know, that cohesiveness. It's just not there yet. They're building it. They're bonding. They're heading in the right direction. The finishes are getting better. You know, obviously COTA was a freak deal. You know, I mean, he got caught up in that wreck. He was waiting the heck back. But before that, he finished 11th, you know, which is a high watermark. So I just encourage him to keep digging, keep pushing. It's not easy. He knows it's not easy. Don't be too hard on yourself. And, you know, again, forget about the keyboard warriors and the boo birds. You know, I mean, there's so many people that are negative. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's a damn shame. It's like I consider social media a blessing and a curse. You can stay in touch with people, but then you got these negative people coming out of the woodwork, you know, with their 2 cents. It's like, stay in your lane.
Exactly. And like Bill said, when a startup team comes about, it's not they're taking all these guys from one team and putting them on that team. They're coming from every guy's playing. He wants to leave this place to better himself, and this guy's leaving, and it's all coming together as one. And it's hard in 1 year to get that as one moving piece. It is so hard and difficult to have everybody on the same page. Yeah, they're all true professionals, but you're getting guys from different teams. This guy was with Toyota. This guy was with Ford, you know, and it's trying to get it all together. And once it clicks, it's going to click, but it's going to take time. And, you know, if I was going to say I was going to win, it'd probably been one win. Not you know what I'm saying? Just get one under you first. Yeah. But, you know, Bill had a great point about that. And it does take a lot of chemistry, and everybody there in that Cup garage it is a dog eat dog world, and everybody's fighting for one to win and to win a championship, period.
Yeah, it's insane. It's hard to express, you know, just how tense and intense it is there at that level. And, you know, even beyond the pit crew and the guys in the shop, you know, coming together, all the right calls have to be made. So now you're looking at the crew chief and the strategist and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you can't predict what the outcome of the race is going to be. You take your best information and historically what's taken place, whatever, and you make calls. But half the time they're the wrong call. I mean, I've seen Bubba out there doing real well because they stayed out, right, where other teams pitted. And then all of a sudden that becomes the wrong call. That could have been the right call. You just never know. It could have been the case that, okay, yeah, somebody wrecked and now suddenly we get a free pit stop, but it didn't work out that way. So there are so many variables that you have so little control over that it's so, so tough. I can't express that enough.
Absolutely.
That's so great. In my group, Facebook, NASCAR Daily, I would say we're majority Bubba supporters. I've been a supporter since 2018. So just, I wouldn't say
I used to pit for him.
That's awesome, Alan. I wouldn't say, let him know that my group specifically, but, just keep encouraging him for us, Bill, and that's so awesome to hear, man. Because we really, we want the best. We want good stuff to happen for him coming up with the next gen car. It's been an honor having you guys both on here. I can't say that enough. It looks like you really enjoyed yourself.
Yeah.
And you're welcome back here anytime to talk about anything you'd like. And we're excited about your upcoming program to be announced. Alan has a sponsor. I always let him plug his sponsor. Bill, do you have any shout outs or sponsors? We want you all to buy the book Winning in Reverse, but I wanted to give you the opportunity. You're welcome to plug or name any sponsor you want to.
No, my sponsor is myself, basically. Again, it's like if those that are watching would be good enough to treat themselves to Winning in Reverse, I think it will be something that they are glad that they did. So out there on Amazon and, pretty much every bookseller, Winning in Reverse.
Hey, Bill, I'm going to buy that book. I need to send it to you to sign. Every person I've had on podcasts, had some Delta Force guys and different guys that's going to be on, they've all signed the book, and I'm going to buy your book. I want to read it, and then hopefully I can message you and send it to you and sign it up for me. That'd be an honor for me.
Consider that done, my friend. That's easy. You need to make a bigger ask, but no, that's easy. And I appreciate being on the show with you guys. I've had a good time. It definitely was taking longer out of my day than I thought, but it's been a fun experience. You guys are real racers and ask great questions, and it's been insightful for me. Listening to you guys is probably as much as it's been for you guys listening to me. So it's been a good time.
Absolutely.
All right, Bill, I want you to take care, and we look forward to your coming adventures. I just got a list. Till Valhalla Project is something I'm very passionate about, supporting soldiers with suicide and veterans and that sort of thing. I buy their T-shirts, and they do not financially support this podcast, but I financially support them and their cause. And we'll give a shout out to Fanatics. That's where I get all of my sports gear that makes me look good in my photos on Instagram. And of course to Shipyard. Can't say thanks enough to Shipyard for making this awesome program to have multiple guests on and to get my brand out there. Thank you guys both for investing in me. Stay safe. We're almost through this. The capacity events is going up, and Alan, I look forward to hearing about your trip to Charlotte this week. And Bill, you're the best, man. You're my personal hero. You're the best.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill,
right.
Thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed talking to you. I wish I could have got to pit for you, but I'm definitely purchasing the book, and I'm going to promote it on all my stuff too. So, man, I think what you're doing is great.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, definitely reach out to me and we'll get that book signed for sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, gentlemen, you enjoy your day.
You as well.
All right now. Bye-bye.
Bye. Mike, how about that, buddy?
I just got a screenshot just before you tucked out. I forgot
That's
to
awesome.
take a screenshot. This is my personal, Daytona 500 victory right here for me. It's such an honor just to know Bill and follow his career and his experience and listen to his story is a
Hey, we're
true
still
honor.
live, brother. Stop the recording.
No, I know. I'm just wrapping up.
Oh, okay.
Just still wrapping up. Just reflecting. Um, yeah, and Alan, you as well. Just I said it, but I'll say it again just to put the tip on it. Yeah, man, huge inspiration to me. Awesome to have you here. Um, and I'll people are listening, so I'll say, I was almost ready to throw in the towel with this thing, and you hadn't even watched a single episode, and you just said, "Hey, man, let's see what we can do with this thing." So,
Well, it's
thank
all
you,
about
Alan.
helping people, man. I've been helped along the way by, you know, first was my high school football coach believed in me, and he steered me to, be the best that I can be. So it's all about helping, and that's what I'm here to do is help you. But I would like to say thanks to Fab CBD for sponsoring me. And if you go to their link, it's fabcbd.com, code name STEEL, and you get, I believe, 20% off. It's a great product. So,
All right, and stay tuned. We'll have a Charlotte preview coming up for you in the next coming days. All right, take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
thank you guys.